meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Hannah here.
Sullivan here.
Grillo here.
Lorick here.
David here.
Donnie here.
Super here.
Chandler here.
Before we go into the minutes, Carrie, would you like to read the notice?
City of Oak Creek Plan Commission Remote Public Meeting Guide. The City of Oak Creek is authorized to hold this public meeting remotely during the COVID-19 public health emergency under the March 16th and March 20th advisories from the Office of Open Government and the Wisconsin Department of Justice. Per the advisories, this meeting being conducted via Zoom video conference with telephone conferencing capabilities was duly noticed per the City of Oak Creek Municipal Code and statutory notice requirements more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Members of the public have been advised of the options for participation via direct mailing to property owners within 300 feet of a proposal, via the COVID-19 information page on the city's website, via social media, and via the information contained on the meeting agenda. This meeting may also be viewed at the city's YouTube page, the link for which was contained in all aforementioned notice methods. The meeting recording will also be accessible on the city's YouTube page within 48 hours. Plan commissioners and participants are initially muted upon joining the meeting. Plan commissioners and staff have the ability to mute and unmute the microphones throughout the meeting. Please mute at all times except for roll call, motions, voting, and when recognized by the chair. Roll call and voting will occur per the usual and customary procedures, starting from the Plan Commissioner seating positions south to north in the Common Council chambers. The chair will facilitate questions and comments by calling on each Plan Commissioner or by requesting the use of the raise hand function in the Zoom webinar control panel. Only speak once you have been recognized by the chair or moderator. Applicants, their representatives, and all other participants who wish to speak will be unmuted when there is a direct request for information from the Plan Commissioner staff, when the participant utilizes the raise hand function within the Zoom webinar control panel and the moderator verbally indicates that they are unmuted, and when a phone participant dials *9 to indicate that they wish to speak, and the moderator verbally indicates that their line is open. When unmuted, all participants must state their name and address for the record, then proceed with comments or questions. Questions and comments may also be entered into the Q&A function within the Zoom webinar control panel. Staff and/or the moderator will monitor this function during the meeting and provide the information requested. There shall be no private messages or side conversations during the meeting utilizing the chat or Q&A functions. Chat and Q&A messages are part of the public record. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. That will get us to approval of minutes of June the 9th. Would everybody please take a look? And when you're satisfied they're acceptable, we'll entertain a motion.
Seibert moves to approve the minutes of June 9th, 2020.
Lorick will second.
Roll call. We will start from my left with Commissioner Hannah.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
David, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay. Item 4, significant common council actions. Carrie?
This time there were no significant common council actions to report. Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Well, that was quick and efficient. 5A is consideration of a conditional use permit submitted by Drs. Brad and Brett Osgood of Brentwood Animal Hospital for a conditional use permit for an animal hospital and kennel and boarding facilities on the property at 318 West Ryan Road. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request is for the rezone of the property, conditional use permit for the property, excuse me. You will notice that part of the property does have a current zoning of B4 CCU. CCU stands for conforming conditional use, and at a time in the past, in roughly 1993, A portion of the property was allowed to have a kennel facility, and they were granted a special use in Ordinance 1653. Unfortunately, that only covered the portion of the property that has the current veterinary clinic on it, and the proposal is for an expansion of the animal hospital into a brand new facility that will be on the opposite side of the parcel. So we are asking for the Plan Commission's consideration for the entire property to be covered by the conditional use permit for the animal hospital. That will include kennel and boarding facilities. They do currently have kennel and boarding facilities in the existing building. There is a single-family home that is on the property in the area where the new building is proposed, and that single-family home will be raised. And on the screen right now is a conceptual site plan showing what the proposal would entail. This would come back before the Plan Commission should the conditional use be approved. Currently, they have 5 doctors and 25 associates, and with this expansion, they're expecting 7 doctors and 30 associates. Their hours of operation will remain largely unchanged. They are on the screen right before you. Monday through Thursday, 7 to 7, Friday, 7 to 6, and Saturday, 8 to 1. Now, with the increase in doctors and associates with the new building, they will require some additional parking, which is shown again conceptually on the plan. Minimum parking requirements are 3 patron stalls for every doctor and one stall for every peak shift employee. So that would require 51 stalls, and their conceptual plans are actually showing 57. So we do look like we are on the right track to meet the parking requirements. On the screen right now are conceptual floor plans for the proposed building. Now, these again are not for review by the Plan Commission this evening, but they're simply as an informational item. On the left-hand side is the basement floor plan. What the mostly white area is showing is an open basement, unexcavated. What is on the top part, which would actually be to the north of the building, the north side of the building, are the partially exposed basement plans that include the kennel facility and like food prep and associated office space for such. And then on the right hand of the screen is the conceptual floor plan for the first floor, the main floor of the operation. Again, this could change by the time it comes back to the Plan Commission, but this is where they are right now. On the bottom is south oriented, so that's where the entrance would be. And then of course on the north, that would be above where the kennels are on the floor plan to the left. And for anybody who was wondering how many kennels they are proposing, right now it shows 48 in the basement. They do have a plan at this point to use the current facility for overflow kenneling and boarding if that becomes necessary. Otherwise, the building is planned to be used for storage. Again, on the screen, these are conceptual elevations, but this is what the south elevation of the proposed building would look like. This is the entrance on the south elevation. And the west elevation, so this is facing the property next door, the M1 property. This is the north elevation, and you'll notice that there are 4 overhead glass roll-up doors. That's actually where the kennel facilities are, so we get a lot of natural light for those dogs and cats. And then on the east elevation, this is the conceptual elevation that you might see partially as you're traveling westbound on Ryan Road. Should this be recommended for approval and proceeds to conditions and restrictions at the next Plan Commission meeting, these are some of the items that staff will be incorporating into those proposed conditions and restrictions for consideration. Landscaping for parking areas, since we do have a lot of parking that is going to be adjacent to Ryan Road, we do have requirements for screening along public rights-of-way. Probably some additional wraparound landscaping on the east side will be required as well. That requirement for review, however, would come at a later date when we're reviewing site and building plans. Stormwater management and green infrastructure, of course, will be required for the property with the addition of the building and the parking. Outdoor storage would not be permitted except for the traditional trash enclosure, and we're not really considering outdoor storage as part of the proposed dog run, but we just want to make sure that we limit the outdoor storage capabilities, meaning we're not going to have trash or pallets or anything like that that might have to go into the dumpster. Just make sure that the outdoor storage is limited. Lighting as necessary for the parking lot, and then outdoor kennels and dog runs will probably have a couple of ideas for making sure that we have those things covered. So with that, if the Plan Commission is satisfied and believes that the entire parcel should be covered by the conditional use, there is a suggested motion on the screen for approval. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Kevin, are the applicants here? Would they like to address the commission before we go to them?
We do have Brett Osgood and Brad Egan.
If they'd like
This
to
is
say
Callaway.
anything.
Oh, Glenn, it's Callaway.
Okay.
Hi, hello, this is Brad.
Okay, Brad, we need your name and address for the record, and then if you'd like to make a few statements, please go right ahead.
My name is Brad Egan. I live at 6011 Artist Bay in West Bend. I am the owner's rep for the project, and we hope to get this approved tonight.
Okay. We'll stand by. We'll go to the commission, and if there's any questions, hopefully you'll be able to take care of it. So,
Thank you.
okay. Brett, would you like to say anything?
Thanks a lot.
It's actually Brad.
Oh, sorry.
So Brett's with me.
Okay. Comes up on my screen as Brett.
That's fine. Let me mute my other computer here. So yeah, I echo what Brad Egan said, that we're interested to obviously, I'm getting some feedback, but our interest is obviously to get the plans approved so that we can further grow our business and improve the animal care in the city of Oak Creek. So
Appreciate that, Doctor. With that, we will go to the commission. We will start from my left or the south. Commissioner Hanna.
I have no questions, actually.
Okay. Commissioner Sullivan.
We have none at this time.
Commissioner Carrillo.
I just have a question. It looks like there's a residence to the west of this. Is that true?
That's the existing building, I believe. Am I correct, Carrie?
are we
No,
talking
there
about
is,
M1?
there is a residence, but it is in an M1 district.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
And I should actually disclose that Brentwood Animal Hospital is my veterinary clinic right now.
Hi, Carrie.
Full transparency is good, Carrie.
Hi, Doc.
Gets me to Alderman Lark.
I have no concerns. I'd just also second Carrie. My dogs are also seen there. It's a great Oak Creek veterinary clinic. I'm glad to see that they're expanding in Oak Creek. So I have no concerns.
Thanks, Greg.
Commissioner O'Danny.
I have no questions.
Commissioner Seipert.
Yeah, I have one question. What about the extended wetlands? Are they going to interfere with the expansion into that area, which is on the northwest corner? Brad, you want to handle that one? Brad Egan?
Hear me?
Now I can, I guess.
Yeah, this is Brad. We have a civil engineer retained, and they are doing the stormwater management and will handle the existing wetland condition.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Chandler.
I do have a question for the applicant. And just also a side note, my puppy, who has passed away some years now, also went to this place. So my question for the applicant is, can you share more information on what's expanding? Is it that you're going to have more kennels, more hospital space?
You want me to take that, Brad? I can address that. So yeah, the main purpose of the expansion is to expand the hospital space and
Sorry.
to expand the veterinary side of our business. We are limited currently with the growing community and the expanding pet population of the community by space. Currently, we have 5 exam rooms and we have 5 doctors. And in order to efficiently service the community.
When they're ready, Jim, you go first, please.
Are you hearing me?
It's your honor, I think. Yes.
Did everybody hear what I said?
We can hear you. Somebody needs to mute themselves, please.
Okay. So in order to satisfy the expanding pet population in the community and to essentially do that efficiently, we need more exam rooms. We can't do it with a 1-to-1 ratio of doctor to exam room. It's just not feasible. When this practice was envisioned back in the 60s, when my dad built it in the 60s, he built this building as a 1-to-2 veterinarian practice, and obviously we've expanded since then, both with an addition back in '93, but also just in remodeling the interiors of the business to try to satisfy the growth of our business as well as the community. Well, we're limited now there's nowhere to go but rebuild. So we're sort of hamstrung at this location, and by rebuilding the building, not only do we update the facilities and provide better facilities, we're also going to expand so that we can satisfy that expanding pet population of Oak Creek. The boarding facility is the boarding part of it is we have an exposed basement. There's an increased demand for more interior boarding, so not outdoor boarding, but more higher end interior boarding or inside boarding, and that's going to be the bulk of the boarding for the new facility. So that's the purpose of the luxury. It's more of a luxury boarding, I guess you could say, for the new building versus the traditional indoor-outdoor kennels that we have in the existing building right now. Does that answer your question, Chauncey?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that it? Any other questions? I have no further questions either. I'm glad to see you're expanding. Again, I think the commissioners hit it right on the head. You've been nothing but an asset to the city of Oak Creek and our pets. I'm glad to see you're expanding and you decided to stay in Oak Creek. Again, it's a testament when half the commission has used your service, the service you're providing. So great to see that you're expanding.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
If nothing else, motion, please.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission recommends that the Common Council approves a conditional use permit for an animal hospital with kennel and boarding facilities on the property at 318 West Ryan Road after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Planning Commission review at the next meeting, July 14th, 2020.
Lorick, second.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Secret, aye.
Chandler, I.
Okay. Congratulations, guys, and good luck. Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5B, consideration of a conditional use permit. Sorry, I lost my place. By Eric Ogden, Industrial LLC for a freight yard, freight terminal, transship depot facility on the property at 102 West Oakview Parkway. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a property that has an existing multi-tenant industrial building on it that had been previously reviewed by the Plan Commission and approved in December of 2016. The current zoning is M1 PUD. It is part of Oakview Business Park. It is right on Howell Avenue. The proposal is for the entire building to be allowed to have freight yard, freight terminal, transshipment depot facilities. Now, this is actually just allowing any tenant within that multi-tenant building, up to 6 tenants right now, the ability to basically have a shipping company within there. We do see a lot of regional shipment companies that like to locate in these industrial parks. So that's exactly the same kind of proposal that we had seen elsewhere within Oakview Business Park and within the rest of the city as well. So again, it's going to be within the existing building. No changes to the site or the building are proposed as part of this request. They do have one tenant. That tenant has not been made part of their submission, but they do have a tenant for one of the spaces. Currently, that tenant would be occupying about a third of the building, and there might be options for that tenant to expand, but there could be up to, at any one point, 6 tenants in that building. This is a shot of the approved site plan from 2016. They currently have 12 loading docks, although they were approved for 28 on the west side of the building. They do also have 20 striped truck and trailer parking stalls immediately across from those docks. And they did have an additional 9 trailer truck parking stalls in the northwest corner up there. That's next to one of their dumpster enclosures. They also have employee and visitor parking, which is separated from that truck and trailer parking on the west. There's 22 stalls on the south side of the building and 113 stalls on the east side of the building for use by approximately 135 employees that would be anticipated on site at any given time. This is anticipated to be a 24/7 operation that allows for the most flexibility for any tenant that would be in there. Hours and days of operation would obviously change based on tenant needs, but right now they're requesting the max based on the fact that that's what the current tenant would be needing it for. They do also list primary hours, which would be where the most activity would occur outside, and that would be 5:30 to midnight. That includes probably loading, unloading, and interior functions of the facility as well. There is no outdoor storage that is proposed, nor would it be approved for this particular conditional use request. And if the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposal, there is a suggested motion for approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
I'm muted again. Thank you, Carrie. This time is the applicant available? Would they like to say anything before we go to commission? Kevin?
We have Ryan Spott and Brian Randall.
All right. Hey, Brian.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I don't know why you can't see me, but I can try and change the setting if you'd like.
No, I gotta stop.
And Ryan Spott is my colleague at Davis and Kielfeld. Our address 111 East Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53202. But I'm prepared to do most of the speaking, even though I know Ryan Spott did register.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to open with, or should we just go to commission, Brian?
Just real quick, this is a building that's similar to what HSA, then the city is familiar with HSA developing. However, this one is a little bit different, as Carrie explained in the staff report. another developer, a proposal on a spec, did bring it before the Plan Commission in 2016. At some point thereafter, 2018, HSA bought the site, then went through with the construction. So the building does exist. It really hasn't changed since the 2016 plans. And as Carrie summarized, we are trying to facilitate the ability to land tenants by taking care of the conditional use piece during this next 3-month process. And then we know with the types of parameters that we set that we have to watch what our overall head count is, the number of truck trips and the like. But as Carrie mentioned, we do have a tenant that's in the works, and if they take 1/3 of the building and ultimately grow to the entire building, that's a win-win for everyone. So we are certainly happy to answer any questions, but right now it's very similar to the 610 West Rawson building approach that we took, and I think a couple other Oakview Business Park buildings. So we look forward to any questions and continuing to work on the tenancy of this building.
Great, thank you, Brian. We'll go to the commission. We'll go this time to my right or north. We'll start with Commissioner Chandler.
I do have a question for the applicant. My question, it may be geared towards the applicant as well as Carrie. So this facility will allow multiple tenants. If any of the tenants or any of the other tenants are not freight and transshipment companies, would the applicant have to come back and make changes to the conditional use permit?
So this is Carrie, and that would not be necessary unless one of the other tenants were to propose a conditional use that was not included as part of this. So for the M1 district, that does give them a wide variety of options for what would be allowed as a permitted use. If they were to, for instance, take a portion of the building and want to do an indoor recreation facility, which we have seen in other places, then they would have to come back and amend the conditional use permit, but only for those conditional uses that are listed in the M1 district.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it, Commissioner Chandler?
Yes.
Commissioner Siebert.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the truck traffic on a daily basis if you have it occupied?
So this is Brian Randall responding to that. Of course, we don't have the building fully occupied as of yet, but as the graphic shows you on the screen, there are 12 loading docks already in existence, and I believe more than that were approved back in 2016. And so the overall number of truck trips really will be dependent on the ultimate tenants that we have, but the numbers that we're presenting to you are indicative of what that would be. This isn't, and I know the commission is familiar that I did work on the FedEx Freight, which was a major trip or intensive and trucking operation. And that's not how these buildings are designed and typically not how the tenants would be attracted to these buildings. So it's not that level of truck terminal, although the conditional use permit is labeled, as we've discussed, the truck terminal approval.
Okay, Fred? Go ahead.
Another question about the traffic coming off onto Howell Avenue from what's it, Elmwood? That's what I'm a little concerned about, is the traffic going north or south coming out of the facility.
Commissioner Siebert, this is Carrie. We would have in the conditions and restrictions the preferred truck routes or the allowed truck routes for this particular facility, but where it's located, it would necessitate going either north or south on Howell Avenue. It's just a matter of at which point can they turn to go west. Again, that is something that we would be proposing as part of the conditions and restrictions should this be proposed to be approved.
Okay, is that it, Fred?
That's it.
Okay. Don?
At this time, I have no questions.
Okay. Alderman Lorik.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Carrillo,
No questions.
Commissioner Sullivan,
We have no questions at this time.
Commissioner Hanna.
Yes, actually, I do have a question. I'm not sure it's for Carrie or for the applicant. So do we have some sort of idea what type of tenant we're having here?
So this is Brian Randall. I can attempt to respond to that. The first answer to that is certainly we are aware of the M1 zoning, and this is consistent with that question that was asked earlier. We know that there are a variety of permitted uses that could and should be appropriate for this particular building, zoned M1. And of course, the continuingly successful and growing Oakview Business Park, where there are already a number of successful businesses and multi-tenant buildings. And so we are constantly looking with the locally based listing brokers for the site to find the best tenants that may be able to take advantage of the build out opportunity. This building essentially has no bathrooms. It's a shell building at this point, so it can be custom built out for what the tenant's needs will be. But as we commonly, and when I say we, the brokers and my client HSA, constantly field questions from potential tenants, oftentimes we recognize that they have a trucking component, and whether that trucking is pure freight yard or freight terminal type of use per the definition, or a strong part of what their business is, we've looked at this conditional use process as a way to just make sure we're covered and the city is covered as well, so that there aren't any questions about how much trucking may occur or that whether the conditional use permit is needed or not. So we're, again, doing this essentially on spec ourselves to make sure that the tenants that we are looking for, if they do want to sign a lease with us, that we can accommodate them with the conditional use process in a very competitive market. And so the types of tenants could have, again, a piece of warehousing, they could have a piece of manufacturing, but ultimately all of those types of tenants do have a piece of the delivery and transportation. And so that's why we want to make sure we're covered in that regard.
Thank you for that, honey. I do understand that, but I guess my concern is if we leave it kind of somehow open, what if we have some chemical companies who are doing some storage and trucking as well, because that will impact how you actually transforming the building. So,
Commissioner Hanna?
Yes.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please continue.
No, so I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Does M1 district include that type of restriction or no?
So as part of this particular conditional use permit application, they are not requesting any storage of inflammable liquids in excess of 5,000 gallons. That is something that is in the code that would be required to have a conditional use permit as well. Storage of hazardous materials, storage of inflammable liquids in excess of 5,000 gallons, as I said, those types of uses would require additional review and approval, and especially by emergency services, so the fire department, because there are restrictions on those types of storage of those types of materials as well. So yes, that's not included in this request.
Okay.
If it were to be proposed at some point, it would have to come back to the Plan Commission.
Okay, good. That's what I want to understand. Also, if we're going to have a public information meeting at one point, they need to know that as well, if it comes back as such.
Yes, anybody within 300 feet of this proposal, should it have another proposed use at some point in the future, would get notification of the Plan Commission as well as the Common Council hearing.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any last comments before I kind of go? Okay, I really don't have any issues at this time. I think Mr. Randall summed it up. It's very similar to what we did at 6th and Rawson. So I don't have any issues at this time. So. With that, we'll entertain a motion.
Lorick moves the Plan Commission recommend that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit for freight yard, freight terminal, transshipment depot facilities on the property at 102 West Oakview Parkway after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Plan Commission's review at the next meeting, July 14th, 2020.
Hannah second.
Hannah second. Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay, very good. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Item 5C is a lighting plan review. This is the photometric plans submitted for the Mod Homes LLC at the residence at Oakview for the internal roadways, and it is located at 10730 South Howell Avenue. Lori, we got
I've
you.
got this one, Mr. Mayor.
You got this one, Lori?
Yep.
What you here for?
So Plan commissioners will be familiar with this property. This is part of the residences at Oakview single-family condo development that's on the property. The PUD was approved in 2019, and most recently the clubhouse and the monument sign were approved back in April. Now, as part of the PUD, it did require Plan Commission review for all the lighting and all of the landscaping on the property. And what we're here to review tonight is the common lighting for the development. Landscaping is currently being revised and will probably be brought back to the Plan Commission fairly soon. And what is on the screen right now is a conceptual plan showing where they anticipate the proposed light poles to be. You'll notice that this is in two phases. Phase 1 has the majority of the light poles at 12. That includes around the parking lot for the clubhouse facility, at the entrance, and then along the internal roadway facility. Phase 2 includes 7 light poles for the remainder of the development. They're proposing to use the Guardco Pureform fixtures on the Valmont poles that we see throughout the city. These are very standard. They're using basically what we use throughout the city now. The height of the poles to the, from the base to the top of the fixture is about 24, 25 feet. There's 1 meter box location that they've identified on the plan. We are going to be requiring that to be screened, and that would be part of the revised landscape plan that would be submitted for later review. There are no other comments that we've received from other departments, save for there might be a light pole that has to move slightly due to the impact to the wetland or the location in a wetland. So that can be worked out at a later point. If the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposal, there is a suggested motion on the screen for approval, subject to conditions 1 through 3. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Kevin, are the applicants with us? Would they like to say anything before we go to commission?
We do have Jeremy Samadas. He is able to speak.
Okay.
Yes, hello, it's Jeremy, 670 North Park Boulevard, Glen Ellen, Illinois. No, don't have much to add to this other than we continue to get excited as this continues to get closer and closer. So that's all I'll add at this point.
Okay, Jeremy, stand by and we'll go to the commission. Commissioner Hannah?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Sullivan?
We have no questions.
Commissioner Carrillo?
No questions.
Alderman Lorick?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner O'Danny?
No questions.
Commissioner Seipert?
No questions.
And Commissioner Chandler?
No questions.
Okay. Are there any residents that want to speak on this by chance? Kevin, is there anybody else concerned about this subject?
There's nobody else online, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I myself, again, don't have issue with it either. It's pretty standard. I would imagine this went through our electrical inspector for approval for the foot candles and what have you. So I'm fine with it the way it goes. I'm glad you did match what's in the city. Appreciate the consistency going forward with that. So with that, Motion, please.
Lorick will move that the Plan Commission approve the lighting plans submitted by David DeSanto, Mod Home LLC, for the property at 1073 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. Number one, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. Number two, that all conditions of approval from the April 14th, 2020 Plan Commission review are in effect. And number three, that final lighting plans and photometrics are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Prior to the second, just want to make sure that we have 10730 South Howell Avenue as the subject property.
Sorry, I'll amend my motion as such.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, I.
Perillo, I.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Okay. Very good. Good luck. We're looking forward to the development. Hope you're on schedule and things are progressing well.
Thank you for the continued support.
Great. 5D is a temporary use permit. It's consideration by Mark Gams of Marcus Theater Corporation, B&G Realty, for a temporary operation of an outdoor drive-in theater, the South Shore Cinema parking lot located at 7241, 7261 South 13th Street. Carrie?
Lori.
Lori,
We
geez.
do like to mess with you, don't we?
You know what? I thought you were here for the last one, for the update on the zoning.
Yeah, no, I took the drive-in, little fun for the week.
I even flipped the
So-
coin on which one you were taking there.
That's how we do our teamwork in the office. So the Marcus Theaters, the South Shore Cinema, is proposing a drive-in outdoor movie theater on the east elevation of their property. This property is zone B4, it's PUD. They want to operate the drive-in movie theater between June 26th and September 30th of 2020. And when they do operate this, they're hoping to be approved for 7 days a week, dusk till approximately 1 a.m. with a maximum of 120 cars per showing. So I have on this next slide the site plan that Marcus Theaters submitted to us. Again, the screen will be located on the east side. It'll be approximately 48 feet by 19 feet. The parking spaces are also noted in this drawing. As you can see, there's separation between the cars, which will allow the guests to exit their vehicles and still maintain social distancing. The traffic patterns are also noted in this. As you can see, the vehicles will be entering, heading westward, and then looping back around, and then allowed to be parked. Tickets and refreshments will be conducted online only, so through their app, website, and they're also offering to take those through phone calls too. Now, when they're going to project sound, it's going to be only through the FM transmitter. So there will be no outdoor speakers. No alcohol sales will be allowed during these events. Any refreshments will be picked up at the front of the cinema, at the front door, but all the food preparation will actually be occurring inside the building. The building will be open for restroom use also during this time. The theater is planning on doing a gradual reopening of also the indoor theaters. So this will occur over the next couple of months. Unfortunately, the site plan really didn't address how they were going to handle the extra traffic pattern and also extra parking capacity issues that might occur. So the Parks Commission or the Plan Commission may want to have a discussion regarding that. The operation was also planning on adhering to COVID-19 guidelines. So this includes making sure that the security will be patrolling the lots to make sure people are adhering to social distancing. Guests are allowed to remain in their vehicles or immediately in front of their vehicles, but they are not allowed to socialize in between the vehicles. Face coverings are required at all times when you're outside your vehicle. Again, social distancing of at least 6 feet. Lines for refreshment and restrooms will be limited to 10 people at a time, and restrooms will be sanitized regularly throughout the evening. I've included the suggested motion on the slide. It is a lot, and I apologize, but I digress. Mayor?
Okay, that is it. There is some reading involved here, but is the applicant with us, Kevin? Would they like to make a statement or anything before we go to commission?
Yep, Mr. Mayor, we have Mark Grams. Mark,
Okay.
you're able to speak then.
Name and address, please.
Mike?
I'm showing him muted yet.
Oh.
I asked for him to unmute. He may have stepped away.
Oh, there he
There
goes.
is.
All right, I'm back. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Mark Grams, Executive Vice President, Marcus Theaters Corporation, 100 East Wisconsin Avenue, Suite 1900. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about our proposal.
Great. Thank you, Mark. We'll open it up to the commission. We'll start with Commissioner Hanna.
I actually have no questions. I really appreciate the effort and all the effort that they are taking for accommodating the COVID-19 conditions. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and we're anxious to try to get people accustomed to going to the movies in an environment that is safe.
Thank you.
Great. Matt?
Engineering has no comments.
Okay. Dawn?
No comments.
Greg?
I'll start out by saying that it's exciting to get this in Oak Creek. I did visit one during the safer at home order or when it was lifted in a neighboring community. So I'm glad there's one closer here in Oak Creek now. I am curious if there's any concern from staff or fire or police that the screen will be facing 13th Street. Is there a thought that cars might slow down or pull off or amongst the side of the road, or concern from Marcus that people might just stop on the sidewalk and watch the movie?
Sure. I can at least speak for staff. The police department did talk to the neighboring community that I believe you're probably talking about, Alderman Lorick. And they said that they didn't have any issues or experience any issues, at least from the police perspective, and that the traffic flow and everything went well, and they didn't have an issue of people stopping on the side of the roadway. Of course, this is on 13th Street, so I guess it's a wait and see.
Okay, and does Marcus have any plan to shield in any way, or is it just going to be wide open there?
It's going to be open. I looked at it this morning. It's quite a ways from 13th Street to that screen. I think that it's not going to be an issue. I don't think that people will even notice that it's playing.
Okay. I think that's all for now. Thank you.
Okay. Don?
No, I have no questions. Everything looks good. Good addition. I know my kids are excited, so it's amazing that a pandemic would bring back the drive-in theater, but I think they've always kind of been missed, so it's good to have it back.
Great.
Thank you.
Fred?
Yeah, I have one question. Is staff going to be available at the end of the show to help move the traffic out?
Correct. Yes, staff will be available to exit traffic at the end of the feature. Staff will also be there parking the individual vehicles as well.
Okay. I think it's a good idea.
Nope, I agree.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Chauncey?
Yes, I do have a couple questions for the applicant. In regards to parking, is there a plan in place for the parking?
Yes, and the lot's been striped with 6-foot distances between each vehicle so that we maintain that distance, that socially accepted distance between cars at this time. And we'll park the smaller vehicles in the front and the the SUVs kind of in the middle and the larger pickup trucks, et cetera, in the back so that people have good visibility. But they will all be spaced, and they'll all be spaced with ample distance between cars for considering our environment.
And also with the traffic flow, can you kind of walk us through how the traffic would move before and after a movie?
The people driving is an opportunity where people make a night of it. So the cars actually come in at a relatively even pace, and they'll enter the regular entrance to the theater, as you see at the green arrows. When the cars make the turn, which is kind of in toward the front of the building, we will have a kind of a ticket taker, if you will. It'll be there's a scan code ticket on their iPhone that they'll generally, or a paper ticket they'll show the attendant, and then we will have people there handing out our menu for refreshment ordering and directing them, each individual car, specifically into a specific car space. So where you see that kind of U-turn, that's where we enter people, and that's where we take them into parking spots. And then you see the red arrows are the exit pass for people though to drive out of that parking lot, and the aisles in between are marked off where we have two-way traffic that you could go either way to move around to get out of the lot.
Okay, and if you're gonna scan tickets for each individual car,
right,
and each person is only required to wear a mask if they're leaving the car, how are you protecting the employees and
the employees will wear masks, and the person in the car will merely have to show their cell phone or their paper ticket to the attendant, which they'll be able to see from 6 feet away. And at that point, then those cars will be directed. Each car will be directed into a car space with all of our employees keeping ample distance from each other and from the vehicles.
Okay. And how are you keeping the public safe as well, since there may be some interactions with the public that aren't wearing masks?
Again, all our staff are wearing masks, and all of the public is being asked that while they're in their vehicle, they can certainly act as they so choose in terms of wearing a mask or not. But when they leave their vehicle, they're asked to wear a mask. So wear a mask to go to the washrooms, wear a mask to pick up your food, wear a mask if you're sitting in front of your car instead of sitting in your car.
Okay, and then my final question, what type of movies will be shown?
They'll be these will be family attractions. Our opening attractions will be E.T. and Jurassic Park. No, excuse me. Nope, we're going with Fast and Furious and what's called Fast 7, a PG-rated movie. Most of the movies we play will be, as I described, with E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones. They'll be family attractions.
Okay, and then I do have a question, I believe it's for Lori. Is there a way that we can verify that with this large of a screen that you won't have visual noise that would impact or distract drivers, as the Alderman was referring to earlier?
Well, the screen is being put up tomorrow, and we will be able to test run, short pieces of product on screen as early as tomorrow evening.
And as was said earlier, the screen is set very far back from the road against the building. So with the landscaping along 13th Street and near the church, which is directly south of it, it should any kind of light that is emitted from that should be very minimal when it gets to 13th Street.
I would agree. And to give you sort of a sense of measurement, the digital billboards that you see on alongside the freeway or alongside a major arterial street are running in what's in a measurement called nits, and they run at about approximately 500 nits. Our screen will be running at about 34 nits, so very low light. In fact, that's why we need to start our show at dusk, because during the daytime you couldn't see the picture.
So let me ask this question. So are we completing any testing to verify that the lighting does not impact or create any noise? Or are we just making the assumption that everything will be okay? Because I just want to make sure that we're safe. The passerbys, those that are driving by, etc., to minimize any distractions while driving in particular.
Staff has not addressed doing something like that, although I can share anecdotally that I live further north and west of the city, and they are doing a very similar process at see here, it's at the Majestic Theater, which is right off the interstate, and we could barely see what was going on the picture. And that is actually significantly closer to the interstate than what the 13th Street Theater is to the road. So
yeah, and thank you, and let I add that at that approval process in the town of Brookfield, I received a email from the Department of Transportation, the Southeast Regional Director, saying that there would advising the town that there would be no impact from that movie screen from the interstate in that location.
So did they run tests?
No, they didn't need to run a test. When I described what I just described to you in terms of nits, he knew exactly what it was and knew that the screen would not impact traffic at that distance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I do have just one question, and it's directed for Assistant Chief Havey. You've been with us for quite a while. Any issues from fire access-wise, with the lots or anything like that? Have you guys, this is kind of a different circumstance for you. Any comments?
I think the flow is a little bit different, but I think as far as traffic patterns, the existing lot and traffic flow coming in and out of there, we've dealt with that before. I think just the lesser impact of where our FDC connections are. We viewed routing, so that is not obstructed. So we don't have any issues with accessing what we normally would need to access.
Okay, thank you very much. Other than that, I just have a comment. One of the commissioners, I think it was Commissioner O'Danny, said, yeah, the pandemic brought some things back, and this is one thing we've all experienced probably as adults, most of us. I know I took my daughter to the drive-in, the 41, before they shut it down and it became Northwestern, but there are generations that have never experienced anything like this. So, I applaud the Marcus Corporation for stepping forward, and again, part of this is it's really getting your business to help survive, and we have to do our part to encourage them to do that. And this is a big undertaking on their part. I'm sure they would like to do business as normal, but we're not there yet. So we're being inventive and creative and cooperative, and applaud you for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
To help the business, we should be doing it as long as it can be done safely. And I think we demonstrated that. So actually looking forward to it. Wish you a lot of luck. And as Alderman Lard said, I'm glad it's here in Oak Creek to get some people out and do some family bonding, because this is a family event. So looking forward to it.
Thank you.
So if there's no other questions, motion please.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes.
I just have two quick questions for Marcus.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
The first question is, I see that it expires September 30th, just in time for obviously the fall and winter. Is there any I guess, any planning? Do you think that this will become a year-to-year permanent thing over the summer at Marcus? And the second.
Let me answer that one first. You know, I somewhat hope not, because certainly we'd like to have people patronize our regular indoor theaters and have those be busy and vibrant places. This is, in my view, something of a compromise that we're making with ourselves to provide entertainment for people in a safer environment, but not with the quality of sound and projection and immersion that one would normally have in an indoor theater. But should we still be living in this COVID environment where people don't feel safe in an indoor environment in a group like a movie theater would offer, certainly I would come back to you next year to look for a summer again of outdoor performances, should we find ourselves in that continue to be in that environment.
Okay, thank you. And then real quick, I was just curious what you charge for a carload.
A carload price is currently I believe we're at $25 for the weekends, for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and $20 for the weekdays.
Does that include everybody in the trunk?
Actually,
I would hope there would be no need for trunk.
What is a carload? I haven't experienced that before, so I don't know what that means.
It means that we will charge one admission price for the car full of people. And so as many seats as you have and as many people as you can legally sit in your car, there's one price.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit of a joke. Years ago, people would put people in the trunks, save a few dollars.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So it's not by number. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing none, motion, please.
Lorick will move that the Plan Commission approve the temporary use permit for the drive-in movie theater within the Marcus Theater's South Shore Cinema parking lot at 7261 South 13th Street with the following conditions. Number one, that all operations are conducted in accordance with applicable federal, state, county, and local orders and policies regarding COVID-19. Number two, that all operations adhere to the site plan submitted in the proposal. Number three, that no more than 120 cars shall be permitted per showing. Number four, that all operations shall comply with the noise ordinance. Number five, that no outdoor speakers and PA system will be permitted. Number six, that no alcohol sales will be permitted. Number seven, that all food preparation shall occur within the theater building. Number eight, that there shall be no advertising or any other signage added to the premise. Number nine, that there shall be no additional lighting be added to the site. Number 10, that fire hydrants shall remain readily accessible with an adequate clearance of 10 feet around the appliance, and drive aisles must remain clear. Number 11, that the operation shall occur 7 days a week between the hours of 7:30 p.m. and 1 a.m. or as determined by the Plan Commission. And number 12, that the temporary use shall expire on September 30th, 2020.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
David, aye.
Donnie, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay. Okay, Mark, good luck.
Thank you.
I wish you well, and your opening day is the 26th, I believe?
Yep, it'll be on Friday.
All right, looking forward to it.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Take care. Thank you, Council.
You're welcome. 5E is a zoning code update, just discussion item, and I gotta believe this has to be Lori. You're muted.
It's Carrie, actually. who
Oh,
was
man,
speaking
come
on it.
on.
You're so close. Yeah, it's 50-50.
All right, Carrie, take it away.
Yeah, sorry. Something was happening with my screen. I couldn't actually unmute myself. So let's try this again here. All right, can you see that? Which is actually nothing.
Nope, not seeing your screen, Carrie.
Huh, how weird. Hang on, give me a second. There it is. Okay, nothing exciting except for just the fact that this is something to put up on the screen. Anyway, brief update on where we are with the zoning code update. We have received the first 3 substantive articles of the zoning code update. There will be, I believe, 8 or 9 articles in total. And this will be coming before the Plan Commission later on this summer, probably, maybe even early fall. We are going to be going and asking the Plan Commission to provide input on this as our steering committee for the zoning code update, a little bit different from the comprehensive plan. We are going to be asking for your input to make sure that the zoning code addresses some of the issues that you see during your reviews that are possibly not addressed in our current zoning code, or things that we could be doing better, things that we are missing, things that we shouldn't be including, things, you know, we'll have this discussion more regularly. We will be providing you with those articles as they become available. Staff is taking the time to review them first, provide our comments so that they can be incorporated into a draft that would then be presented to the Plan Commission. We do have representatives from House Deal Levine Associates that will be providing some of the updates with staff. So stay tuned. This will be coming forward very soon. We're very excited. We are moving and making very good progress. It's going a lot faster than I actually anticipated. So the first 3 articles were kind of giving the zoning districts. There will be some changes there. And also the use table, which is going to be something different that everybody's going to have to get used to a little bit. Instead of having to go through each of the zoning districts, looking up what's approved for permitted and conditional uses, it's going to be a table that'll give you each of the individual districts and whether or not that particular use is going to be permitted, conditional, or just not allowed. And then the use standards are going to be in Article 4. We will have individual requirements such as setbacks and things like that that will be in these articles, an extensive zoning definitions section, yay, and also some illustrations. So there are going to be certain situations where as best you can make the actual text of the code, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I'm a visual person, and I find those images to be much more helpful in illustrating certain points. So we will have a lot of graphics throughout this as well. So stay tuned. Just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of where we are with that project.
Okay, are we open for questions, or you got more slides, Carrie?
I have no slides. It was really just a verbal update just to let you know what's happening. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But right now, we've, as staff, provided some initial comments to HLA on those first 3 articles, and there are some discussions that staff needs to continue with HLA before we are comfortable presenting a draft to the Plan Commission for your review. A couple of discussions that ended up being a lot longer than just like an hour or an hour and a half. In fact, we had a 2-hour conference call just the other day. So we are being very diligent with some of these updates, the whole update really, but some of the conversations do require extensive consideration.
I guess I'll just make a brief statement. We really haven't gone over this zoning code in years, 20 some years. Has it been that long?
I believe the last major update, meaning the entire thing was updated, was 1995. We've had several updates since then, obviously, but those are on a case-by-case basis.
So a long time. We don't get a kick at this all the time. It's a huge undertaking to go citywide and look at this and straighten it out. Obviously, many things have changed since 95 to 2020. You know, use of materials, we run across that all the time in this commission, things like that. We don't expect you to come up with questions like right now, but as things start to, you know, come back to your memory, or you hear concerns that you've had or your neighbors or your friends have in the city, jot that down and get to staff. And I encourage you to talk to the staff over the next few months and get familiar with the struggles they have, because they always prepare this stuff for us. They are the experts. And their opinion's very valid. I'm not saying we're going to rubber stamp anything, but get an understanding of some of the most common things they deal with and how we can help straighten that out to clarify that job. You know, I can tell you, I myself, and Greg, you can attest to this, we field a lot of things in zoning on conditions of property and how they're kept, and how we can react to that better. Still work with the neighbor or the resident to clear those things up, particularly, and then, you know, with the builders, just the same as they come through, how we can make it clear from the start. We got a nice article at Oak Creek's, you know, a pleasure to work with. We want to remain that way, but we still want to keep our standards. So we don't want to compromise that, but we do want to streamline it, make it clear as to what we're doing as things have changed over the years. So with that, I'll open it up for the commissioners to ask any questions or comment. Anybody? Doug, I noticed you've been on the whole meeting. Is there anything you'd like to state?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Good meeting so far. Sorry, it took me a while to get the mute button here.
Okay.
Exactly. I mean, there's I'm sure each of you, in your experience with the commission and reviewing the number of developments that we have, has come across some issues that kind of make you go, is there a way we can do that better? I mean, whether it's, I think the mayor pointed out one that we're struggling with a little bit right now. It's you know, is Oak Creek the same place that it was in 1995 with respect to, you know, some of how we allow outdoor storage uses, or how we permit, or if we permit, you know, the storage of how we recreational vehicles and trailers. Should we allow unpaved parking lots anymore? You know, those are all questions that we struggle with, and hopefully we really want to get a good feel from how the commission sees the community now and for the next, you know, 10, 20 years, so that we can have a zoning code that's easy to interpret. I mean, we don't want to make this more difficult than it is on people. I mean, and our code is difficult. We want to make it very clear, very concise, so that, you know, when our partners in the development community come forward, they know exactly what they need to do. And you know, we just want to continue again that partnership that we have to really making great developments happen. And the kind of I will say it's a major update to the code is a big part of that.
Great, thank you, Doug. Lori, Carrie, anything you want to add to that? Advice for the commission?
Well, I will say that we have started our kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Our database of issues that we as staff have come across in applying the code and in questions that have come up in permit review or application review, things that we have struggled with interpreting or that we think we can do better. If the Plan Commission has some of these ideas that we've just been discussing that they would like us to address, we would like to keep that in a database and keep that updated so that we can, one, identify the issue, where it is, and how we addressed it if we really needed to address it immediately or if we came up with a solution within the code itself. That's going to be something that we continue on an ongoing basis, because even though we're doing a brand new code, it's going to be completely new. We're not going to get everything. We're not going to get everything right out of the gate. There will be changes that need to be made as we apply it, and that's just part of the nature of the game. We are trying to make this as user-friendly as possible, as Doug mentioned. We're trying to incorporate some common language, trying to get away from, as much as possible, legalese that can be interpreted one way or another, or is just difficult to understand. Trying to get away from a lot of these cross references whenever we possibly can, just to make that a little bit clearer instead of having people having to search here, there, and everywhere. Some of that can't be avoided anyway, though. We do have to reference, for instance, building code, and that's in a separate section. It's just what we have to do. But again, that database is going to be extraordinarily helpful in maintaining this code as we move forward. But as many of those issues that we can actually address up front in the initial run through of the zoning code, in the initial adoption, it can only make it better. We are asking for input from other departments too, because we live this day to day, and sometimes somebody else will read it and go, that's not the way I'm seeing this. So that's also going to be extraordinarily helpful for us to incorporate some of that common language and understanding as well. We want to make this as the best possible code that we can. So yeah, definitely send those to us and we will get them incorporated into the database.
Okay. Lori, anything from your perspective? Okay.
No, I think Carrie said it all. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, Mayor, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if it's a question related to the zoning code or not. I actually came to Oak Creek about 12 years ago, and what attracted me to Oak Creek is the urban feeling, in the same time the rural feeling, that the amount of green space I have around, yet I can go to the store very close by. So when we're doing the zoning code and we revising it, I would use that word, is there any way, or is it being taken in consideration in keeping the percentage of green space versus industrial versus commercial? Is that part of the zoning code that's being updated or no?
Yes.
Well, part of that is actually the comprehensive plan that was recently updated, and we identified areas that would be appropriate for all of those particular uses, and a lot of preservation of green, open, parkland, wetlands, floodplains, and those kinds of areas. So that was absolutely considered in the comprehensive plan update that will translate over into the zoning code update. We are maintaining that 30% open and green space requirement per parcel. It doesn't come into play with single family residential necessarily, but certainly for commercial and manufacturing, that is going to be maintained. We are still going to have stormwater standards. We are still going to have setback requirements. So all of those things will still be maintained as part of the zoning code update. We do recognize that the city does have urban areas, and we do want to preserve some of those agricultural and open areas that are assets for the city. Quality of life is often tied to open space and parkland, so we want to make sure that we are providing and maintaining that wherever possible.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Again, this will be ongoing throughout the year here, or the next 6 months. But this is going to be one of the more important things we really get to do is, as Doug and Carrie mentioned, this doesn't get done every day. So some of the things we put in place are going to be here long after we're all moved on. So let's be conscious of trying to keep it clean, simple, and right to serve the next generation coming forward.
Plan Commission has 2 major milestones this year, and that's the comprehensive plan and the zoning code. Major.
Yes. So, okay. Seeing nothing else before we sign off, Dawn, what's going on at the market this weekend?
We have a market coming up. We also have pre-order online. You can find all the information at visitoakcreek.com, and you can do curbside pickup, so you don't even have to go to the market. We just today entered our 300th item online that you can order from. And then because of the parade is not going to happen on the 4th of July, we're going to bring back the farmers market is going to happen on the 4th of July, which we were not going to have. So we will have the market so that you can come in, get all your food for your backyard cookouts.
So there you go. If you haven't been to the market, it's a little different, but not a significant change. Very nice. The vendors are there, and just a little change of pace. Remember to bring your own bag. And again, try to respect everybody by wearing a mask. We would appreciate that. So I'd like to thank Fire for sitting in on the meeting. IT, you did a great job. And of course, planning. You guys set us up really well and really help us get through this pretty easily. So thank you for all the hard work. Appreciate it. If nothing else, adjournment then.
So Carrilla will adjourn at 7:21.
Lorica
Hannah
second.
seconds. Okay.
Sure. Got that, Carrie?
I
All
think
right.
Lorick just beat out Hannah. It was close though.
That's okay. Go for it.
All right. Roll call, everybody.
Hannah, I.
Sullivan, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Goldani, aye.
Secret eye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay. Well, everybody have a great week. Enjoy it. We're coming down into June. If you have nothing to do, you may want to check out the drive-in that Oak Creek has going on at the Marcus Theater on 13th. Sounds like fun. So wish everybody well, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.